Hello everybody, my name is Alex. You have heard that there are many disasters of airships in the world. But the most fierce one I've ever heard is the disaster of the Zeppelin called Hindenburg. And today, let me introduce you and talk you about the Hindenburg. When the first time I heard the word Zeppelin, I thought it was a blimp. But it is not actually a blimp, it is an airship. It is a type of airship from the Nazi Germany's in the 90s to the 80s, hundreds and the 90s, when the First World War and Second World War broke out. And so they decided to build the airships and Zeppelins for Nazi training. So they would fight and use propelled bombs to fight with the USA. Germany was called the Axis, with some other countries such as Japan. And so now the leader in Germany, Adolf Hitler, decided to rule over other countries. For example, he decided to push over Slovakia and Czechoslovakia, and then he invaded Poland. Then now he decided to invade China. Then Japan decided to kill China. But then Japan got ruled by the US. And the US said, hey, Japan will join you. But the Nazis refused to get this idea. They decided to go war with the Americans, and so the Hindenburg disaster was ready to form. So in 1914, the First World War broke out, and the people have to fight with Italy and Germany. And the final minutes of World War I was peaceful. And then they all surrendered, and Germany lost. The leader again, Adolf Hitler, decided to have a second war. This time, a war more deadly. The First World War only killed about 15 million people. But he decided to make a chance and kill all this and that. And so he decided to rule over more and more countries. By the time he decided to make some airships and zeppelins, he decided to make some companies called the Zeppelins, and the Zeppelins included the Hindenburg. And now I will tell you the story. First of all, in 1973, the Hindenburg was a big airship. It was shorter than the Titanic, about 80 meters. And also, it was going to be in a big building and was loaded up. And soon, the Hindenburg was ready to take off with the flight. Many soldiers and Nazi officers and also land workers decided to pull the Hindenburg out. It looks like a blimp with gray skin and with several components of water gases, and underneath it there is a small, like this, but the gas is huge, and there is inside was a little bit of workers, and so underneath it there were holes and windows everywhere. There were dining rooms, and there were rooms, and there were bathrooms, and there were living rooms, and there was quite another stuff like the restrooms and other stuff here, and dining rooms inside the underneath of the Zeppelin and the Hindenburg, I mean. And so they decided to launch up. The ride was smooth at first. It looks like the things were magical, like a giant beast lifting its head. And also, the ride is smooth, I said before, and it uses its engine at the back to the workers that once were there. And soon they had gone to the first trip. The first trip was about a few people only get off the Hindenburg. They missed it. And also, the Hindenburg just landed there and decided to stop for a quick break. And also for the people. So the people then moved away to Frankfurt, Germany. They need to go to New Jersey in the United States. I forgot to tell you that in the United States there was a type of gas called helium, which is safe. But the Germans have a gas called hydrogen, which easily can be blown up every single time. But with the waters, there might be hope that the Hindenburg will never, ever be blown up by the hydrogen gas. So you're asking yourself that why don't the Germans use the helium? Why don't they want to get the helium from the United States? In fact, the United States have planned a rule so that the Germans wouldn't be planning secrets inside the hydrogen and helium. They would make bombing tests to see if helium works. So the US were afraid that the Germans would use them. And so back to the Hindenburg. The Hindenburg just flew over to the Netherlands, and the Germans have invaded the Netherlands, back off to the Atlantic Sea off the coast. Soon, they're riding on the sea. Sometimes some people on board the Hindenburg was seasick a little bit, while others thought that they were they're like in a merry-go-round. They get dizzy or sometimes they vomit it. But still, the ride is quite smooth a little bit. And so, they decided to cross the Atlantic Ocean. Soon, they were halfway there. There was only 1 day and about 30 to 40 hours left so that they can reach there. That is the maximum time. And so they decided to continue on their journey. On the last voyage. On the second voyage, only a few people got off, just like the first voyage, but not all. So there are only 97 remaining left, 96, until 96, until one fell on the sea. But it was not quite probability, so there was 96 people there. And soon they got to Canada, into Maine. And soon the people can see the New York City, and they can see the Empire State Building, which is the tallest building at the time. We know that the Burj Khalifa is the tallest, but the Empire State Building is the tallest now. And so now they saw Central Park inside New Jersey. So they were going to Central Park, and they were going to land there in the airfield with grass and a huge building that have a hole inside for the Hindenburg to land in. But soon struggle came in. There was heavy wind air forces, and also soon it was going to rain, and they have passed about 1 to 5 hours now. Soon a lightning struck come off, so they have to fly off to about 30 meters into the ocean, a few miles into the ocean. Soon they were back again, and they have spent about 12 hours late. But still, it was still fun. They are ready to land, and the landing was also smooth, like the beginning. When they landed inside a huge hole. But when they were landing, a worker said that there was electric charges everywhere. The people were waiting for the Hindenburg to land, when suddenly they looked out their windows and saw the people scream. Some already ran away. The people were so stunned that they even fell off to the ground. And so the people were confused. What had happened? Were there any explosions? They asked the captain, but the captain said everything was fine. But soon, some oil-leaky gas appeared inside the back room of the other side of the room, and soon the fire came out. The people were stunned. They hadn't yet believed that the Hindenburg was on fire. There's also some spies inside the Hindenburg here, and the fires just spread out to each room. So the people have to get out the wet and soggy and broken furniture and walls and windows so that they can escape and fall off. But then the Hindenburg collapsed to the ground. And soon the grayish skin disappeared, and only left was the steel. Some airbag water containers fell off, cooling the people that were badly burned from the fire. It leaked out, and so people thought that it was a lake or a river. But it wasn't true, though. Some people have already opened their eyes, and they saw a huge, massive, gigantic leak of water. People carried some blankets to the people that were hurt, and some got them to the hospital, and they carried them off the airfield. Now the Hindenburg was at the ground with fiery flames everywhere. Only a few people have died there. Why? Well, here's some additional facts that you have questions with. 1. Is the Hindenburg called the sister of Titanic? Yeah, it was also called the Hindenburg of the Titanic at that time, which is because it is almost as the same length, with 80 meters shorter than the Titanic. 2. Is the Hindenburg the most deadly airship or Zeppelin that ever flew off? Well, not quite. Because the Hindenburg only have about 33 to 36 people died on the voyage. But, the the airship inside the U.S. had a left, such as the Argonaut or the Falcon, were There, about 52 people died on the balcony, and the Arca have about 73 people died on there. With only the Hindenburg, about 36 people died on there. The Hindenburg was still to remember, but the peoples and survivors have written notes to them. People who were not on the Hindenburg have to know what caused the Hindenburg to become on flames. Some interviewed or talked about it, that they thought that sometimes they saw a huge leaky water sprouting inside the walls. They thought it was a wall that with water, a bag container with water that exploded. And the fire have caused the electric chargers to charge. While some thought that there was a bomb inside one of the containers, and it exploded inside the gases, which makes that the Hindenburg sank and turned into fire. But these probabilities were not so sure. Maybe people still decided to talk about the notes and interviews of people to share their ideas with others. And so, we know that the Hindenburg was a very bad disaster, with about people dying with 36, but it wasn't the deadliest Zeppelin at the time. But the Hindenburg is still the most remembered airship inside the world. Still, and so on, people never go on flights with Zeppelins inside the water. But now, well, we can still go on them, but not outside the water, because of heavy currents and tides and moons shining on them, and the weather currents and gases and the waters. But still, we can go on them still. Not on vacation, but for fun. Mostly for fun. You can ride on an NT-16, and you can watch the view and take a short trip on what would it be like and remember about the Hindenburg disaster. I've told you before, and also I've heard about stories about the Hindenburg, and I've heard that people sometimes believe that there was a bomb. For example, I heard the story about the I Survived series about the Hindenburg disaster in 1937. When people said that some thought that there was a bomb there inside the Zeppelin, which inside the Hindenburg. But others think that it was lightning struck from outside, up in the sky. But no one have ever basically improved the two theories, or many theories, about the Hindenburg. And the Hindenburg was a disaster which people never forget it. And so this is the end, of the Hindenburg. So goodbye everybody, and thank you for listening.